Most people dream of being rich, but few ever stop to ask themselves, what does it mean to think rich? Rich isn't first about money. It's about mindset. It's about seeing opportunity where others see obstacles, discipline where others choose distraction, and vision where others settle for comfort. The truth is, the millionaire life is not built in one lucky break. It's built brick by brick, thought by thought, habit by habit. And here's the paradox of wealth. It's not earned by chasing money. It's earned by becoming the kind of person who can attract it, manage it, and multiply it. If you want to live like a millionaire tomorrow, you must begin to work, think, and act with discipline today. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and wealth. Every one of us has dreams, visions of what life could be if we had more freedom, more resources, more time with the people we love. But here's the truth. Dreams by themselves don't pay the bills. Dreams without discipline dissolve into disappointment. It's the discipline, the daily, consistent, sometimes uncomfortable choices that takes what you imagine in your mind and turns it into reality you can live in. I often remind people that life always requires one of two pains. You either pay the price of discipline or you pay the price of regret. And I promise you this, discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. Regret is the heavy burden of looking back 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and saying, I could have, I should have, I would have, if only I had started sooner. Discipline, on the other hand, is the lighter pain. It's the small sacrifice you make today to ensure tomorrow is richer, freer, and better than yesterday. Now, how does this apply to wealth? Wealth is not built by one giant leap. Nobody wakes up one morning, flips a switch, and suddenly becomes a millionaire. No, wealth is the result of little disciplines repeated over time, stacking up like bricks until one day you look around and you're living in the house you built, not the house you dreamed. It starts with the discipline of saving a little from every paycheck, even when it feels like too little to matter. If all you can set aside is $5, then start with 5. It's not the amount that counts. It's the discipline of saying, I will not spend everything I earn. That decision alone separates those who struggle their whole lives from those who create freedom. Let me tell you from my own experience. Early on, when I first began learning about wealth, I wasn't saving anything. If I made $10, I spent $10, or worse, 11. And someone wiser than me looked me in the eye and said, you've got to set aside part of what you earn. If you can't save $1 from 100, you won't save 10,000 from 100,000. That stung, but it was true. So I started small, building the muscle of discipline. Before long, the habit was in place. And once you're disciplined, the amounts grow naturally. Another critical discipline is tracking where your money goes. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will wander off and disappear. That's why a budget is not a punishment. It's a plan. It's not chains. It's freedom. It gives you control. Wealthy people know exactly what's coming in, what's going out, and how much is being put to work. They review their progress consistently. Not once a year, not once in a while, but monthly, because what gets measured improves. If you want your finances to improve, start measuring them. I remember sitting down once, years ago, to review my expenses. It was painful. I saw where I had wasted, where I had indulged, where I had let money slip through my fingers. But in that moment, awareness gave me power. Awareness allowed me to make new decisions, and new decisions created new results. That's the gift of discipline. It brings awareness, and awareness brings change. Discipline doesn't just build wealth, it builds character. And character attracts opportunities. When people see you as disciplined, as consistent, as reliable. They want to work with you. They want to invest with you. They want to open doors for you. Wealth is as much about who you become as it is about what you earn. Discipline is the path to becoming the kind of person wealth flows to. So, let me leave you with this thought. Don't wait for the big moment, the windfall, the lucky break. Start today with whatever you have and commit to the daily disciplines that compound into extraordinary results. The bridge between your dreams and your wealth is discipline. Cross it every single day. Thinking big is where it begins. You've got to let your imagination stretch beyond the limits of where you are now. A small vision will never inspire you to get up early, stay up late, or push through the inevitable challenges. But here's the mistake so many people make. They think big, but they want it all instantly. They see the mansion, the luxury, the freedom, but they don't respect the power of small beginnings. And because they underestimate the small, they quit before the big ever arrives. The truth is, big goals inspire you, but it's the small, consistent steps that achieve them. A 10-year vision is like a compass. It gives you direction. It tells you where you're headed and keeps you from wandering aimlessly. But you don't climb the mountain in one leap. You take it one step at a time, one choice at a time. The millionaire mindset is not about chasing quick wins. It's about steady progress, day after day, year after year, until the picture in your mind becomes the life you're living. When I first started setting goals, I was taught to stretch my thinking, to write down what I wanted 10 years from now. At first I thought, 10 years, that's too long. I want results this year. But as I began, I realized something important. 10 years is going to pass whether I have a vision or not. And the difference between drifting through a decade and designing one is the clarity of that written vision. So I sat down and wrote mine, what I wanted to earn, what I wanted to own, where I wanted to live, and who I wanted to become. That exercise changed me, because the moment you put your goals on paper, they become real. They shift from wishes to plans. But after you dream big, you must act small. Wealth is built not by giant leaps, but by daily deposits. If you can save $10 today, you're closer to saving $100 tomorrow. If you can invest $50 this month, you're laying the foundation for $500 next year. People often tell me, I don't have enough to start investing. And I say, start with what you have. Don't despise small beginnings. Because small beginnings compounded with consistency grow into extraordinary outcomes. Think about the farmer. He doesn't wait until he has 1,000 seeds before he plants. He starts with what he's got. He plants today, waters tomorrow, tends the soil, and trusts the process. Over time, one seed becomes a tree, and one tree produces fruit year after year. That's how wealth works. Seed by seed, reinvested season after season, until your orchard produces more than you could ever eat. Consistency is the great multiplier. Many people start, but few continue. They invest for 3 months, then stop. They save for a little while, then spend it all. They go to the gym in January, then quit by February. But those who stay consistent, even with small amounts, are the ones who see the magic of compounding. Compounding is not just a financial principle, it's a life principle. What you do daily accumulates silently, and one day it explodes into visible results. I remember when I made my first small investments. They weren't impressive. A few $100s here, a little more there. But I kept at it. I didn't withdraw when it was tempting. I reinvested the profits. At first, it felt slow, like nothing was happening. But after a few years, I looked back and realized that consistency had turned those small beginnings into significant gains. That's when it hit me. Wealth is not built in a moment, but in momentum. So, set your sights high. Write down a vision that excites you, one that makes you a little nervous because it's bigger than what you are today. But once you've done that, come back to the ground and ask yourself, what's the small step I can take today? Do that step, then do it again tomorrow and again the day after. Don't underestimate what small, consistent actions can achieve when fueled by a big vision. Because in the end, it's not the size of the leap that builds wealth, it's the steady steps that never stop. One of the most important lessons I ever learned is this: you don't get paid for time, you get paid for the value you bring to the marketplace. That's why two people can both work 8 hours a day, but one earns minimum wage while the other earns millions. The difference isn't the clock, it's the value. Time is equal for all of us, but value is not. And here's the good news: value is something you can increase. Most people spend their whole life wishing their problems were smaller. They say, if only my job was easier, if only the economy was better, if only taxes were lower. But wishing for fewer problems won't change your circumstances. The question to ask is, how can I become bigger than my problems? Don't wish for an easier life. Wish for greater skills. Don't wish for less challenge. Wish for more wisdom. Problems are opportunities in disguise. If you can solve them, you'll get paid. The world rewards problem solvers, not time spenders. Think about it. A janitor and a neurosurgeon both put in hours, but the marketplace pays the surgeon far more. Why? Because of the value of the skill. The surgeon has invested years in developing expertise that very few can offer. Now, you don't need to be a surgeon to build wealth, but you must understand the principle. If you want more, you must become more. If you want to earn more, you must learn more. When I started out, I was broke. My wallet was empty, but my mind was too. And someone told me, for things to change, you must change. At first, I resisted. I thought money would change my life. But soon I realized that unless I changed myself, my thinking, my skills, my habits, money would only slip through my fingers. So I began to invest in personal development. I read books, attended seminars, practiced communication, and studied leadership. Slowly, I became more valuable. And as I did, my income started to reflect that. The strategy is simple but not easy. Find a high-value skill and sharpen it daily. Sales, leadership, communication, investing. These are skills that never lose value in the marketplace. The better you get at them, the more doors open. Imagine if you could sell an idea, inspire a team, communicate with clarity, or allocate money with wisdom. These are the levers of wealth. And unlike trends that come and go, these skills compound over a lifetime. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about practicing daily. Every day, you can sharpen your edge. If it's sales, make one extra call. If it's leadership, read one chapter on influence. If it's communication, practice speaking with clarity. If it's investing, study one new principle about money. Over time, these small improvements make you unstoppable. Here's another truth. The marketplace pays for results, not effort. You can work hard digging ditches, but the value of that work is limited. You can work the same hours creating a business that solves a pressing need, and the marketplace will reward you 10 times over. Hard work matters, but hard work applied to high-value skills is what creates wealth. I remember once being paid a handsome fee for delivering a speech. Afterward, someone came up and said, "That's an incredible amount of money for just 1 hour." I smiled and said, "It wasn't 1 hour. It was the 30 years it took to be able to deliver that hour." That's the secret. When you invest years in becoming valuable, The world pays you not for the time you spend, but for the value you've built into that time. So, stop measuring your income by hours and start measuring it by value. Ask yourself every day, how can I make myself more valuable today than I was yesterday? Because the more valuable you become, the less you have to chase opportunities, they start chasing you. And when you understand that equation, you'll never again feel limited by time, because value, not hours, is what makes you rich. One of the greatest mistakes we make is thinking that wealth is about what we can show off. The car in the driveway, the brand, stitched on the shirt, the size of the house. Those are poor measures of wealth. They may catch the eyes of neighbors, but they rarely last beyond your lifetime. Real wealth, the kind that truly matters, isn't about luxury, it's about legacy. The question is not, what do I own, but what will remain after I'm gone? Because at the end of the road, you don't take your money with you, but you can leave behind something that outlives you. I remember in my early years, I was fascinated by success. I thought the sign of making it was having more things. But then I met a man who shifted my thinking. He said, the measure of a life well lived is not what you accumulate, but what you contribute. That struck me deeply. Imagine building wealth so that when people speak your name, it isn't tied to what you wore, but to the opportunities you created, the lives you touched, the wisdom you passed on. That is the true return on wealth. Luxury fades, but legacy compounds. A fancy car loses half its value the moment it leaves the showroom. Clothes go out of style within months. But a trust fund for your children, a scholarship for a young student, or a business that employs dozens of families, these are seeds planted in the soil of tomorrow. They keep growing even when you're not around to water them. And wealth without that kind of foresight is shallow. It doesn't last. The strategy is to start thinking about wealth in terms of impact, not indulgence. Luxury is for the moment. Legacy is for generations. If you want to feel truly wealthy, give your money an assignment that reaches beyond your lifetime. Set aside a portion of your earnings, maybe 5%, maybe 10%, to causes that reflect your values. It could be education, health, or helping the poor. Whatever it is, it should be tied to something that matters more than your comfort. Because giving not only blesses others, it shapes you into someone more disciplined, more purposeful, and more fulfilled. I've also seen the power of creating systems that keep wealth alive for your family. It's one thing to hand down money, it's another to hand down wisdom and structures that ensure that money grows. Too many people leave behind assets without teaching their family how to handle them, and it vanishes in a generation. Instead, create trusts, funds, or even a family constitution that outlines how wealth should be managed and multiplied. Wealth is fragile in the wrong hands, but it becomes enduring in hands that are trained. One of the most powerful gifts you can leave isn't just money, it's wisdom. Write down your financial lessons. Document the principles that helped you climb from where you were to where you are. Share the mistakes too, because failure often teaches more than success. Imagine your grandchildren reading your words decades from now, learning not only from what you earned, but from what you learned. That is a legacy that multiplies. I recall a conversation with a wealthy man who once told me, "My biggest fear isn't losing money, it's leaving no mark." That hit me hard. You see, when you chase luxury, you're feeding your ego. But when you chase legacy, you're feeding generations. And the amazing thing is, the moment you start thinking in terms of legacy, your financial decisions change. You stop buying what doesn't matter, and you start investing in what will last. You stop trading your future for fleeting pleasures, and you start building something bigger than yourself. So, don't measure wealth by how much you spend, but by how much you leave behind. Don't let your story end with a receipt. It should end with a ripple that keeps moving long after you're gone. True wealth isn't about the shine of luxury. It's about the strength of your legacy. One of the most common mistakes people make with money is this. The moment profits come in, they consume them. A bonus arrives, and it disappears into a vacation. Dividends show up, and suddenly there's a new gadget on the table. Rental income flows in, and it's gone to a lifestyle upgrade before it ever had a chance to work. That is the fastest way to kill your future harvest, by eating the seed instead of planting it. Wealth is built not by what you make, but by what you keep reinvesting until it multiplies. Think of it this way. Every dollar you earn has two choices. It can serve you once, or it can serve you for the rest of your life. If you spend it immediately, the pleasure lasts a day, maybe a week, but the money is gone forever. If you reinvest it, that dollar becomes a worker. It doesn't complain, it doesn't take breaks, and it doesn't call in sick. It keeps working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, compounding into more. The strategy is simple. Don't eat the seed, plant it. Let money flow back into the soil of opportunity, where it can produce more harvests. Not just once, but season after season. I remember when I first started earning beyond my basic needs. The temptation was strong. I thought, finally, I can afford something nice. But then a mentor told me, if you buy luxuries too soon, you're trading your future freedom for temporary pleasure. That stopped me in my tracks. Instead of buying a car that would have drained me, I invested those profits into something small that could grow. A few years later, that decision multiplied far beyond what that car would have been worth. And I learned this: wealth is not about making one great decision, it's about making disciplined decisions repeatedly. The practical way to do this is clear. If you earn dividends, don't pocket them, reinvest them. Let them buy more shares, more units, more ownership. If your property gives you rent, resist the urge to upgrade your lifestyle. Put it back into paying off the property faster or buying another one. If your business makes profits, don't drain it dry to look successful. Pour them back in to expand, improve, and scale. This is how small streams become rivers and rivers become oceans. Increase your contributions year by year. If you start with 10%, move to 15%, then 20%. Stretch yourself to keep investing more. This habit alone can transform an average income into extraordinary wealth. It's not about one big win. It's about consistent reinvestment over time. And here's the key. Delay luxury until reinvestments pay for them. Don't buy the car with your paycheck. Buy it with your investment returns. Don't take that vacation from your salary. Take it from the profits your assets generate. This simple rule ensures you never interrupt the compounding process. Luxuries then become not a drain on your future, but a reward from it. I've seen people who earned well but stayed broke because they never planted their profits. And I've seen people with modest incomes who became wealthy because they mastered the discipline of reinvestment. The difference wasn't intelligence, it was patience. The discipline to wait, to reinvest, to let money compound quietly in the background while they live simply in the present. So, when money comes in, ask yourself, is this seed to be planted or food to be consumed? Make the choice wisely. Because if you plant enough seeds today, one day you'll have orchards. And orchards feed not only you, but generations to come. Wealth grows when you reinvest, not when you consume. Most people love to study success. They buy the biographies, they attend the seminars, they want to know how the winners did it. And that's good. Success does leave clues. But there's another teacher that most people run from, and that's failure. What they don't realize is that failure also leaves clues. In fact, failure can sometimes teach you more than success if you're willing to sit with it, examine it, and extract the lesson. Every mistake you make is a piece of tuition you've paid to the school of experience. The only tragedy is if you pay the tuition and never learn the lesson. I can remember times in my own journey when failure came knocking. A business idea that didn't work, an investment that went south, or a decision I made out of impulse instead of patience. Each one hurt. Sometimes it was embarrassing, sometimes it was costly. But looking back, those moments shaped me just as much, if not more, than my victories. They taught me discipline. They taught me caution. They taught me that what looks like a shortcut often leads to a dead end. Without those failures, I wouldn't have developed the judgment needed to make better decisions later. The strategy here is simple. Treat mistakes as tuition, not as tragedies. Every failure has a price tag. The key is to make sure you get the full value from the price you've paid. Don't sweep it under the rug. Don't pretend it didn't happen. And don't wallow in regret. Instead, analyze it. Ask yourself, why did this fail? What was I missing? Was it timing? Was it lack of preparation? Was it too much emotion? Not enough information? Was I trying to rush the harvest without planting properly? These questions turn failure from a weight into a teacher. That's why I'd always encourage people to keep a journal of financial lessons. Write down the deals that went wrong, the purchases you regret, the ventures that flopped. Don't just record the numbers, record the feelings, what you thought, what you believed, what you overlooked. Because over time, when you look back, patterns will emerge. You'll see the traps you kept falling into, and you'll begin to avoid them. One of the greatest disciplines you can develop is this: never make the same mistake twice. Fail once, learn forever. Another way to learn is by studying the failures of others. Read biographies, not just of the successful, but of those who stumbled and rose again. You'll discover that behind every fortune there are chapters of missteps, wrong turns, and losses. But the difference is that the great ones didn't quit. They treated failure as data, as feedback, as a stepping stone. The stories of entrepreneurs who lost everything and then built it back are some of the most powerful reminders that failure isn't final unless you stop. Now, I'm not telling you to go looking for failure. Don't be reckless. Don't take foolish risks just to have a story. But when failure comes, and it will, embrace it as part of the process. Don't let it define you. Let it refine you. Think of it as polishing. A diamond gets its brilliance not from its first cut, but from repeated cuts that shape it into something beautiful. Failure does the same for us if we allow it. So the next time something doesn't work out, resist the urge to throw up your hands in despair. Instead, pause and write down the lesson. Analyze it. Share it. Let it shape your judgment. Because if you can learn equally from success and failure, you double your teachers, and you double your chances of wealth and freedom. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Most people live their entire lives wishing for extraordinary results while clinging tightly to ordinary habits. They want freedom, but they fear risk. They want wealth, but they're terrified of the very decisions that create it. Yet here's the truth. Fortune doesn't come to the timid. It comes to the bold. If you don't risk the unusual, you will have to settle for the ordinary. And ordinary, my friends, is crowded. It's safe, it's predictable, and it's where most people stay. But if you want to build real wealth and freedom, you must be willing to step outside of safety and step into courage. Now, boldness doesn't mean foolishness. I've seen too many people mistake recklessness for bravery. Throwing money into a scheme without research, quitting a job with no plan, or betting the farm on one wild idea. Those aren't examples of boldness. Those are examples of carelessness. The kind of boldness that builds fortune is calculated. It's the courage to step forward after you've done your homework, after you've assessed the risks, and after you've built a foundation strong enough to take a hit if things go wrong. Because let me assure you, sometimes things will go wrong. That's why I encourage people to set aside a risk fund, create a pool of money designated for ventures, experiments, or opportunities. This isn't money you can't afford to lose. It's money you've planned to risk. By doing this, you take the fear out of the equation. If the investment fails, you haven't lost your livelihood, you've gained a lesson. If it succeeds, you've gained both a return and the confidence to try again. Either way, you win. Another practice I recommend is to take on at least one new project or investment every year. Not 10, not 20, just one. It might be a small piece of real estate, a new online business, a venture with a partner, or even learning and applying a new skill that has financial potential. One bold move a year may not seem like much, but over a decade, you'll have 10 new experiences, 10 new lessons, and possibly 10 new income streams. That's how boldness compounds. It builds upon itself until your options expand, your confidence deepens, and your wealth multiplies. Of course, setbacks will come. That's not a possibility, that's a guarantee. But here's where boldness shows its true strength. A timid person sees a setback as defeat and retreats. A bold person sees a setback as tuition paid, as experience earned, as data gathered. Every time something doesn't work out, you've learned something about timing, about people, about markets, or about yourself. That knowledge becomes the foundation for your next bold step. And the truth is, the road to fortune is paved with lessons learned from setbacks that were embraced instead of avoided. I remember early in my own career when I hesitated on an opportunity because it seemed too unusual. I let fear whisper louder than possibility. Later, I watched someone else step into that very same opportunity and turn it into a fortune. That was a painful lesson. But it drove home the point that fear of risk is often more costly than risk itself. So be bold, not reckless, but bold. Study, prepare, then step out. Create your risk fund, commit to one bold move each year, and when setbacks happen, let them make you wiser, not weaker. Because in the end, fortune doesn't belong to the cautious, it belongs to the courageous. Boldness builds fortune. Most people are trained to think in terms of paychecks. Work a week, get paid. Work a month, get paid. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's how most of us start. But if you only think in terms of wages, you'll always be tied to your effort. If you stop working, the income stops flowing. That's why you have to shift your thinking from just earning wages to creating cash flow. Because wages make you a living, but profits, systems, and cash flow, that's what makes you a fortune. Cash flow is income that arrives whether you're working or not. It's money that doesn't depend on the alarm clock, or whether you're sick, or whether you feel like showing up today. It's income that keeps moving while you sleep, while you rest, and even while you're on vacation. That's the kind of income that builds freedom, not just survival. Now, how do you create it? The starting point is assets. Assets are those things that put money in your pocket consistently. Rental property, for example, can produce income every month as tenants pay rent. Dividend-paying stocks send you checks simply for holding them. Digital assets, like an online course, an ebook, or a software product, can sell repeatedly once they're created. All of these are cash flow generators. The key is to stop trading only time for money and start building systems and investments that trade value for money long after your initial effort. Of course, The secret is not just to receive cash flow, but to reinvest it. Too many people create one small stream of passive income and then use it to inflate their lifestyle. They buy new gadgets, they eat out more often, or they take on unnecessary luxuries. That's like planting seeds and eating them before they've had a chance to grow into a harvest. If you want fortune, reinvest your cash flow into new streams. Let the rent from one property help you buy another. Let the dividends from one stock be reinvested to buy more. Let the profits from a small online business fund the creation of a bigger one. Soon, you'll find that your streams multiply and they begin to feed one another. The other discipline here is to track it. Don't just hope your passive income grows. Measure it. Create a simple chart where you record every dollar of income that arrives without your direct effort. Track it monthly, even if it starts small. Maybe just $10, maybe just $50. Record it, because what you measure grows. Over time, you'll look back and see progress, and that progress will fuel your motivation to build even more. I've often said that the paycheck is important. It keeps you alive. But if all you depend on is a paycheck, then you're always one illness, one layoff, or one downturn away from trouble. Cash flow, however, gives you margin. It gives you freedom. It allows you to choose what work you do, when you do it, and how you do it. So yes, keep earning wages. Use them to live. Use them to survive. But never forget that the real game is cash flow. Wages make you a living. Cash flow builds a life of freedom and fortune. When you're young, or even when you're starting over at any stage of life, it's tempting to look only at the paycheck. You ask, how much does this job pay? How much will I take home at the end of the month? But here's the real truth. If you work only to earn, you'll always be limited by what someone else thinks your time is worth. The better question to ask is, what will I learn? What skills will I take away from this experience that can pay me for a lifetime? Because in the long run, it's not the job title or even the salary that determines your wealth. It's the skills you accumulate and apply. When I look back at my own journey, I remember taking opportunities that didn't pay much in money but paid richly in knowledge. I learned how to communicate, how to sell, how to lead. Those were skills I could transfer anywhere, into any business, any venture, any season of life, and those skills are still paying me dividends long after the paycheck from those jobs has been spent. That's why I say, don't just work to earn, work to learn. Because when you work to learn, you multiply your earning power for the future. Sometimes that means taking a role that stretches you, even if the pay seems modest. Maybe you join a small team where you have to wear many hats. Sales one day, customer service the next, marketing the next. It might feel overwhelming, but think of what you're gaining. You're learning disciplines most people never master. And those disciplines will later allow you to run your own business or invest wisely in others. The key is to track your growth, not just your paychecks. At the end of each year, don't only ask, how much did I make? Ask, what new skills did I acquire? What can I do now that I couldn't do 12 months ago? Because if every year you're adding skills, public speaking, financial literacy, leadership, negotiation, technology, then over 10 years you'll be wealthy in capability. And capability is the soil from which financial wealth grows. Now, don't let those skills sit idle. The danger is to learn and never apply. Take what you learn on the job and use it in your own ventures. Start a side business. Try a small investment. Use your leadership training to build a community group. Use your marketing knowledge to sell something online. The marketplace doesn't pay you for what you know. It pays you for what you can do with what you know. So yes, take jobs, take projects, take ventures, But don't do it only for the paycheck. Do it for the education. Do it for the skills that will last long after the paycheck is gone. Money is spent quickly, but skills, once mastered, will continue to pay you year after year, opportunity after opportunity. Work to learn, not just to earn, because what you become is far more valuable than what you're paid. The temptation for most people is to believe that success comes from bursts of massive effort. They'll go on a strict budget for a month, save aggressively for a short time, or pour themselves into learning a new skill for a week, only to burn out and drift back into old patterns. But the truth is, wealth doesn't grow from intensity that comes and goes. It grows from consistency that never quits. Success is built not on grand gestures, but on small disciplines repeated daily, quietly, faithfully, until they compound into something extraordinary. Think of it like planting a tree. If you water it heavily once and then forget about it for 6 months, it dies. But if you give it a little water every day, a little sunlight, a little attention, it grows roots, then branches, then fruit. Wealth works the same way. Saving one time doesn't change your life. Investing for a single season doesn't make you free, but saving every month without fail, investing regularly without exception, and sticking to those disciplines for decades, that's how fortunes are built. When I first learned this principle, I was amazed at how deceptively simple it was. I didn't have to make huge sacrifices overnight. I just had to make small ones consistently. Saving a little from every paycheck, even when it hurt. Reading a few pages of a good book every single day, even when I was tired. Writing in a journal to track my thoughts and progress, even when I felt like skipping. Those small daily acts began to build a foundation that changed the trajectory of my life. The danger is that because consistency feels ordinary, people dismiss it. They say, what's the point of saving a few dollars? What's the point of reading a few pages? What's the point of writing down my progress when nothing big has happened yet? But that's the secret. The extraordinary is hidden inside the ordinary. One drop of water doesn't shape the rock, but a steady drip over years creates a canyon. Consistency shapes your destiny the same way. That's why I tell people to measure progress in decades, not days. Don't look at your investments after a week and get discouraged. Don't read for a month and expect your life to change instantly. Instead, commit to daily growth habits, saving, reading, journaling, tracking, and give them time. Over 10 years, the person who saves a little every month, reads every day, and reflects consistently will have built wealth, wisdom, and freedom far beyond the person who rushed with intensity for a short while and then stopped. The key is to make consistency a part of your identity, not just your schedule. Don't say, I'm trying to save. Say, I'm a saver. Don't say, I'm going to read. Say, I'm a reader. When consistency becomes who you are, not just what you do, it no longer feels like effort. It becomes natural. And when it becomes natural, you'll keep doing it without needing constant motivation. So let me leave you with this thought. Intensity makes a splash, but consistency builds a river. And rivers carve valleys, shape landscapes, and sustain life for generations. Choose consistency over intensity, because consistency will always win in the long run. As we come to the close of this journey, I want you to remember something very simple but very profound. Wealth is not built in a day, but it is built daily. Every choice you make with your time, your money, and your habits is either a deposit towards your freedom or a withdrawal from your future. The question is not whether you can build wealth, but whether you will choose the disciplines that make it inevitable. Too many people are waiting for the big break, the sudden windfall, the one lucky chance that will change their life. But freedom doesn't come from chance. It comes from choice. It comes from the decision to live below your means, to invest before you indulge, to value learning over leisure, and to surround yourself with people who push you higher. And it comes from choosing consistency when the excitement fades, because the habits you practice daily will one day become the results you live permanently. So here is the call to action. Don't leave this room and go back to the same patterns. Pick one discipline you'll commit to today, save a percentage of your income, start reading 30 minutes a day, write down your 10-year wealth plan. Then do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. It's not the size of the step that matters, it's the fact that you keep stepping. If you commit to this, one day you'll wake up and realize you've built not just money, but freedom, the kind of freedom that gives you choices, security, and the power to leave a legacy. That's the true reward of wealth. And it begins today with your decision. Now go and begin.